A lot of the sales books that I've read, there's always like bam, bam, close. But there's a step in between, and I've identified it between the presentation and the close. Because by the time you get to the close, the answer should never be no, right? If the answer is no, you haven't done your job.
Welcome to the Ultimate Closer Show. We've got Alfonso Cuadra coming on in just a minute here. He is one hell of a man, about 23 years of successful entrepreneurship, wisdom packed into a single man. But before we jump in, make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to share, and make sure to subscribe for more because we've got lots coming your way. But when it comes to the comment, more specifically, what I want you to do is comment about a takeaway you're going to take action on, because all of this knowledge is useless without action. But without further ado, let's get into the show. Hello and welcome. I'm Oliver Wolf from the Wolf Syndicate Coaching, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Ultimate Closer Show, where I take awesome closers out of their productive days to invest their time into you. Together, we'll talk about sales theories and philosophies, as well as actionable strategies, tips, and methods to make sure that you're closing more deals and winning at life. And so today on our show, we have a very special guest. His name is Alfonso Cuadra. Alfonso is a visionary entrepreneur, TV host, professional speaker, real estate investor, and author. He successfully operates 11 businesses under the Cuadra Group of Companies and is a powerhouse in entrepreneurship and sales. As for tidbits of his bio, Alfonso Cuadra is a dynamic leader that's passionate about sharing his story and inspiring others to create the life they want, to never give up on your dreams. He truly is in the business of changing lives and has a special gift in his ability to connect with people and move them forward. He's known as the ultimate entrepreneur and is the president and CEO of the Cuadra Group of Companies and has built several multi-million-dollar companies. He is definitely a sales master with sales into the tens of millions of dollars, featured in Reader's Digest, which did a 7-page profile that was published in 16 different countries in 5 different languages. I only speak 2, so that's ridiculous.
Well, who's counting anyways?
He's the author of the book From the Ground Up, You're 3 Steps Away from Living the Life of Your Dreams. He is also an award-winning real estate investing educator, trainer, coach, and mentor to thousands of students across the US and Canada. And probably most importantly to him, he is a dedicated father of 2 girls, which are the muse to his success. Alfonso believes that with the right mindset, anyone can take charge of their life and design their own success. Now, on a more personal level, I've known Alfonso now for, a year? About? Something like that?
Maybe a little bit more than a year, but yeah.
Something like that, yeah. So we've not known each other for very, very long, but definitely what I've come to learn about Alfonso, although he could easily be someone that people would put onto a pedestal and sort of have this maybe state of like, oh, he's above me and such, he always brings himself to the level of whoever he's speaking with, brings presence to that conversation, and does all he can to rise them to his level. And so this is something that I really appreciate. It's something that I define as being a very successful person, is the ability to bring others to success. And so he has been doing that with me. He's a personal mentor, a coach. He's also become a very close friend, and I'm really looking forward to the future that I can manifest with him. So Alfonso, thank you so much for being on the show. Super excited. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Oliver.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. Just a quick note. That microphone is something else. You gotta. I don't have a micro. I don't know if they say the size of the microphone, but I'm just saying. It's a big microphone. You're serious about what you're doing.
Hey, you gotta be, right? I'm all about the aesthetics. It's gotta be beautiful. It's gotta be nice. It's gotta give you that good feeling.
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to jump on here with you. I'm at the office. It's a bit quiet today, so it was, it's a nice time to have a nice little conversation about creation and building and sales and business, which is one of my favorite subjects. So I'll let take it away.
Cool. Sounds good, man. Yes. So one of the things I really like to jump into, like right off the bat, because I think there's so much value with this question, is what's one of the biggest failures that you've had? How did you get through that failure? And what can others learn from that failure?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, I tell this to my oldest daughter all the time. You know, there's no real failure except until they put the dirt on you. But at the end of the day, there's learning opportunities, and I have had a lot of learning opportunities. One that comes to mind is a website that I started. Actually, I started a few websites years ago, but one was a for sale by owner website that I didn't anticipate the competitors. I didn't see them coming. I was not the first to market, but I was the first to do it in a particular way in Ottawa anyways. And I did not raise enough money, and they came and they just took took my legs. We were charging $800 for our listings, and the competitor came and charged $50.
Whoa.
Pretty much at a loss, right? And we just couldn't hold on. And I guess my leadership was not at the level where I can keep people engaged. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's about the do-re-mi. How much dough comes to me? People will work for the vision, but if the leader is not in a position to really inspire people and get them going, people lose interest. And of course, you need a team. And at the end of the day, I had to, close up shop. And it was a big learning lesson. I invested not only my money, but I had other investors as well, a big team involved. And that's pretty much, when I look back, it's one of the opportunities that I said I learned a lot from that in terms of leadership, sales, and how to motivate people, what it really takes to motivate people, and getting them to buy into the overall bigger vision. And from that moment, I was able to always lead people, not just with money or the bottom line, but also in terms of what does a team need to be successful. And so those are the key things that I got from that learning experience.
Totally. I mean, that's always important, right? Don't look at it as a failure, look at it as a learning experience. I'd love to dive into a bit more of that, because I think there's a really important topic there, which is, and I talk about this a lot on my shows and just with my friends and all that, which is integrity. Integrity is so important. It's basically giving your word to someone and following through with it. And one of the things you did in that experience is you gave your word to investors, employees, clients, all that kind of stuff, right? You gave your word.
Yeah.
And then things went south. And I think that there's an interesting thing I'd love to hear is, how do you deal with the feeling of knowing that you've let people down? How do you deal with that? How do you move through that? How do you learn from that and not let it, knock you out of the game completely?
Yeah. So there's something powerful in standing in your truth. And my truth was, I underestimated the market. I underestimated the amount of money that was going to be needed in terms of keeping, with websites. By the way, when you enter a new market, there's, especially in online, they have this term called burn rate. Burn rate is just people, you just burn money. It is what it is. That's how things are done nowadays. When I started, it wasn't that we didn't have a burn rate. It's like either you make it or you don't. But it was a new market. I didn't understand. Following Warren Buffett's advice, after having read his book, he talks about do what you know, right? And so I was doing really well with the real estate. I maybe shouldn't have gone into online business, even though if it was a real estate. But if you do go online, you should have a proper burn rate for you to learn and grow. And if other competitors come and take you out. And so I had to stand in my truth. At the end of the day, I did lead the troops into battle, and the army was bigger, stronger, better. And no one was hurt. In fact, I was trying to be very conservative with the amount of investment that I took from our partners, our managing partners. And you know what? I should have said, you know what, we're going to need a little bit more.
Mm.
But being conservative, we underestimated, and at the end of the day, competitors came, and I would have to say that, yeah, you know, I had a big learning curve there, and I won't go into online businesses again.
Hey, that's fair. I mean, you got burnt by the, you got burned by the stovetop. Don't touch the stovetop again.
Yeah. I'm good at real estate. And even from then, all my other projections have always been extremely conservative, because I never want to over project and, you know, get people involved into something that it's not going to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So there's a couple of things there that you said that I'd love to sort of bring into the light. One was, you know, like you said, like, stand by your truth, you know, speak your truth. And I think there's a lot of power in that, right? There's a lot of people that ask the question, like, how do I say X? And it's like, well, say X, right? Say it, like, say it from the most truthful, authentic place and space that you possibly can. Because the fact is, if you try to cover it up or make it sound like something else or whatever, you're basically lying, right?
Yeah.
And in lying, you're just making it worse and such. So I really like that you said that. So again, if you're in that state of letting people down, you know, you miscalculated, you underestimated or whatever, speak the truth, right? Own your truth.
You have to, and it takes it. Anybody can stand up in front of a group of people and inspire people when things are going great. But it takes a real leader. A real leader.
We're gonna trademark that, the Alfonso Luder.
But it takes a real leader to stand up in front of a group of people and say, "Listen, guys, we messed up, and it was my fault." Right? I had to take full responsibility. I could not blame anybody else. And you know, those a lot of those people are still with me. We're still friends. Nobody's ever, you know, I never dodged anybody's call. You know, you have to stand in your truth, and that's why I can walk with my head held high in the streets, knowing that I did my best, right? And guess what? The very next company after that was a home run. So it goes to show you. I'd rather be, if anybody out there wants to invest with anyone, and you ask the question, have you ever had any failures, or have you ever you know, have had something not work out, or have you ever lost any investors any money? If they say never, or they've never had any failures, I don't want to invest with that person, right? Because I don't want to be the guinea pig. Does that make sense?
Yes,
so
I was actually going to go in that direction. So I'm glad that you did it yourself.
Yeah. So you want to be with someone that has gone through all the trials and tribulations and the ups and downs, and has learned, you know, along the way, as opposed to somebody that has said, well, no, I've never failed. And then, so if you've never failed, then you've never learned. And so I don't want to be with the guy that feel, you know, that's going to not be appreciative of the learning opportunities, or not even admit it, right? And then the next question should be, what happened? And so if that person is blaming their team members and everybody else, then you know that's not the person to do business with, or invest in, or anything else.
Yes, I love this. What I was going to go as well in that direction was basically, if you don't know their shadow, then you never know what might happen. And it's really important to know people's shadow sides, their anger sides, their failure sides, their sad sides, because you need to know, like, when it comes down to it, right? When it comes down to the ground, to the worst case scenario, how will they act? Will they, you know, not send out a lifeline and just be all about themselves, or will they actually do everything they possibly can to get everybody out of the water, right? And so I think that's hugely important. Again, like you said, if there's someone who hasn't had failures or you know, hasn't felt what it means to hit rock bottom, then you have no idea what will happen if that happens. And so you're right. Like, do you really want to partner up with someone who you don't know what could happen in the worst case scenario? So there's a lot of power.
Or they're going to be doing their learning with you.
Right. Exactly. Like you said, the guinea pig, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing you mentioned too is I realized that wasn't in my genius, right? So your genius is investing, and you try to take it online, but online is not your genius. This is huge topic, right? Is like one of the greatest things that people can do for themselves and everybody around them is discover their genius, and then propel and perpetuate that genius. Right. So I'm really glad that you brought that up as well. And I'm actually wondering if maybe you'd like to add anything to the idea of like, finding your genius, tapping into your genius, all that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on that topic?
Well, definitely, when you're in your genius, as you call it, when you're doing something that is, there is no resistance in terms of you wake up on time, you want to do it all day long, you lose track of time doing it. And so look for the things. I mean, the key to success is to find the people in your life that play at the things that you have to work hard at. And so if you are trying to do all the, as an entrepreneur, like they call it solopreneur, you're going to end up doing a lot of things that you don't like, and not being in the space where you can be the most productive. And so being in my genius, it was very easy. It was a path of least resistance. It was where I shine. And the problem is, like, every time we reach a certain level of success in a certain area, entrepreneurs, we're known for this. We start to say, oh, what about this? What about this? What about that? And I've learned to stay within my skill sets. I've learned to not only stay within my skill sets, but maximize my skill sets and just really focus on what I'm good at and what I love to do. And then create a team around me that can do all the other things that I don't like to do. And so that's pretty much what I have to say when it comes to, living in your genius. There's certain things that I am so good at. I can do them. I can wake up in the morning, and then I can get a phone call and I'm in my genius right away. And those are the things that you should be doing and focused on.
Totally. So something else that I definitely want to dive into to make it more like sales oriented and such is, and why I want to bring this up now is we are stepping into a new quarter, right? Which is a big deal. It's, I think people don't value the power of a quarter as much as they should. I personally, I look at a quarter like most people look at the new year. And so what I'd love to bring up is another really important thing about sales is goal setting. Yes. Right? And I know that you are a master goal setter. Yes. And so I know that you're a master goal setter. So I'd love to talk about, what are some tips, strategies, methods, or whatever that help you goal set in a way that you actually hit your goals.
Yes. So if you're always hitting your goals, bottom line, too small, right? The purpose of a goal is not to hit it. It's just to set a target for yourself, right? Most people's goals are way too small. They only put the things down that they think it's attainable, like that old SMART goal setting thing, SMART, attainable, I can't remember.
Specific, measurable, attainable, reachable. Like,
so that gets people confused, because when you say the word attainable, then that means we're all going to be living within our, what we think our potential is. But as you know, Oliver, our potential is limitless. And so the goal should be specific, but it should also excite you and scare you at the same time.
I like that. Right? Yeah, that's important.
But not overwhelm you. And so the only way for the goal not to overwhelm you is to break down the goal into bite-sized pieces. And so, yes, I'm like Q2 for me is so important, because you know what? It's a whole new year, right? The problem is people wait a whole year to accomplish things. And just like writing if you were going to go out and run a race, a marathon, you would pace yourself and you take your time. But if you're going to run the 100, right, the 100-meter dash, you're going to sprint. You're going to be on a go, right? And you're going to want to make things done. So you need to kind of compress time. I've always been someone that I'm looking to find ways how to compress time. I don't want to do billion things in the time. I want to know what are the most important things that are going to get me to my overall goal. So I'll have 5-year goals, I'll have 1-year goals, and then I'll keep breaking the goal down until this quarter. What do I got to do this quarter? Okay, that's what I got to accomplish. And then so you're running 100-meter versus a marathon, because if you put a 5-year goal, there's this illusion that you have time. Right.
Yes.
And so you pace yourself, you take your time, and then you get to August, you haven't done anything. And then now you can say, you know what, I'll just wait till the New Year's again, and then I'll get started, and then I'll get started, and then I'll get started. So the most powerful thing that you can do is compress time and into little chunks, right? And so you are now forced to, there's a sense of urgency there, and you can go for it. Now, at the end of the quarter, you can say, what have I done? What have I completed? How close have I come? Maybe the goal was not the right goal. Maybe you need to, readjust a little bit, and then boom, set your next goal for the next quarter. And then the quarter should be broken down into months and weeks. And what do I have to do today? What is my next logical step? What do I have to do, this week, today, this hour, that is going to get me to that goal at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter. And that's how people move forward, because you need to have those small wins as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I love it. And I'll even add to the whole goal setting thing. One of the things that I've stepped into is this idea that when it comes to goal setting, it should be treated as a long process. I think a lot of people, they're just like, here's a goal. And like you said, like maybe they'll even start breaking it down a little bit, but I like to get as clear as possible. I really like to make sure that it's super clear. And like, for example, yesterday I goal set with my girlfriend or my fiance, and we spent 2-3 hours. And then throughout the week, I spent another few hours to get clear on what is this quarter about. And who is important in this quarter? Who's going to help me get there? Who's going to keep me accountable? Who's going to mentor me? Who's going to like all the, like you always say, right? OPM, OPC, OPT, right? Other people's money, other people's credit, other people's time. Like you don't want to just set goals that only you can achieve, because of course that'll limit you. But what are goals that you such that by leveraging other people can be achieved, right? Really make it exponential of a goal by using other people's whatever.
Yeah. Well, how many people can you enlist to support you in that goal? Can you communicate the vision to other people so they buy into your goal? You see, there's a lot of people that don't have goals for themselves. They're more than happy to follow and follow someone that has a goal, right? Like Obama had a goal, he had a vision. Martin Luther King had a vision, had a goal. And so it's easier for people to follow other people's goals because they don't have any clear goals for themselves. Or even if you can be very specific and clear with your goal, you can also find the people in your life that your goals align, right?
Yes.
So someone else's goal could align. If you're specific and clear, they will look at you as another way for them to achieve their goal.
Love it. Very cool. So some other things, let's get into a bit of nitty gritty sales stuff, right? I think, again, some people are tuning in here. They really want to know, like, okay, I love this stuff. I want a goal set, but like, now how do I achieve the goal? So let's say we've got a sales goal. We're pumped up. We've broken it down, all that fun stuff. Then it's like, okay, well, how do you close a deal? What would you say are sort of, I don't know, high level or as deep as you'd like to get? What are some key takeaways or points that people need to know or practice to become masters?
Well, first of all, someone's watching this and they don't know about you, Oliver. They better go do their research. At any point in your business, if you're not selling, you do not have a business. If you're not selling consistently, you do not have a business. You need to be, even if the business just falls on your lap, you are missing opportunities, and so first of all, like all businesses have different sales cycles, and most people do not understand that they are in a sales cycle, or they don't even know what a sales cycle is. And so people just start a business and they start, they open their doors and they just wait. So before we enter a sales cycle, we have to enter a business cycle. You need to understand what is your business cycle. And at the very top of your business cycle, it's a lead generator. And so without leads, you can't sell. Without selling, you don't have a business. And if you're not selling, you are dying. If you're not selling consistently, you are dying. And so what happens is people don't have enough leads. They have a business, they open their doors, and there's not enough leads coming in through the door, that they start focusing on things that have nothing to do with building their business, like cutting costs, calling the internet company, trying to figure out how to go without this and without that. I always come from the mindset that it's not about living within your means. It's about expanding your means. And so if you look at any income statement financial income statement, the very top line is the top line, the income, the sales, and that's where your focus should be. And so once someone has entered your business cycle through your funnel, through your marketing funnel, where you can generate the most amount of leads. Now, people can be really great salespeople, but really awful lead generators. Like they just have no.
And they're very different. They're different skills. They're different systems, different models. Like it's the kind of thing there. Actually, I can relate to this, right? I'm very good at sales, marketing. Like, I'm not amazing at lead generation. So it's something that I'm trying to like leverage and delegate, right? Other people, like OPS, other people's skill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's I mean, that it could be that they're taking the coaching. It could be that they're doing all these other things, but there's no leads. Right. And so, and they don't even know how to qualify those leads. So the second one lead comes in, they jump all over that person because that's the only lead that came in. And so they're overfeeding the lead with a whole bunch of information, and they probably should have done a better job qualifying that lead. So before we even enter a sales cycle from the business cycle, there's going to be some qualifying there. Are these the type of leads that are going to buy your product, service, or whatever? Wow, the product or service or whatever it is that you have. So
that's a drop the mic situation right there. It's like boom.
And so once they've entered your sales cycle, and everybody's going to have different sales cycle, but what people need to realize is, number one, there's only going to be 3 reasons why anybody's going to buy your service, buy into your idea, buy your product or whatever it is. Number one, they need to like you, right? So the very first thing sales people want to do is sell the product, but they're not doing any selling at that point. There's just simply telling. And so people need to come in, and you need to build that likability. How do you build likability? You build it through building rapport, connection. You need to listen more than you speak. You want to make sure during this likability period that you can connect with the other person. The second thing is respect. People do business with people that they find to be experts, that they respect. How do you earn respect? You have to. This is where you get to talk about your product knowledge, your experience, how many years you've been doing this, the history, how many successful deals, all of this stuff, right? And so it's important that you have that respect, because part of respect is influence. You can influence other people if they respect you. And then the third thing is logic and reason. So, those 3 things need to happen. People need to like you, they need to respect you, and there has to be logic and reason in the deal. The deal has to make sense. They could love you and respect you, but if the deal doesn't make sense, then you won't have you won't have a deal. You simply won't have a deal. You won't even understand, but something about what you're talking about, something about your deal or the idea that you have does not make sense. And so once you understand the 3 reasons why anybody would buy from you, purchase from you, buy into your idea, you can now go into a proper sales sequence where it's 4 steps. The first step is ID period, is the period of time where you're going to take to gather all the information, get to know your prospect, build that likability, build the rapport, and it's going to be question based. You're going to ask questions that are going to the prospect is going to offer up all the information, like a customs officer. A customs officer is trained to get the most amount of information in the shortest amount of time. And so once you have gotten the information, once you have built this identification period, now you are safe to go into a presentation. But never
I want to even iterate that
without an invitation.
Totally. And I think what's really important though is just like that questions portions. Like I really want to drive this home. When I coach, or even in my own sales cycle, the questions portion is easily and usually more than half of the entire sales portion or presentation or a sales appointment. Right. It's like you
should be spending about 80% of the time asking questions throughout the whole sales cycle.
Perfect.
Because you are not the one that is buying the product, item, or idea, is the prospect. And so if you don't ask enough questions, definitely your presentation will suck, right?
Yes, it
Because
needs to be a tailored presentation.
Yeah, you're never going to be able to tailor that presentation because you don't know enough about the prospect. And that is the biggest mistake that salespeople make, is that they go into a presentation, or they have a canned presentation that they're always going to do the same, talking about the same benefits, without even studying the prospect and realizing that the benefits that you think are benefits are actually detractors to your prospect.
Yes.
And so there's that story of this lady walks into a knife store and says, "I'm looking for a knife." And the guy, their sales guy, rushes out. "Yes, we got the knife right here. It cuts the best. It cuts right through cans. It's the sharpest knife ever." And she's like, "Oh my God, thank you for telling me. I'm not going to buy this knife because I'm looking for the dollest knife because my mom is 95 years old and I don't want her to cut herself." And so it comes from this idea that we're so quick to jump about what's important to us.
Yes. Or what we assume is important to them.
Exactly.
As well.
Exactly. And so we need to have that ID period. It's so important because when you get to your presentation, the presentation should be about them. Right? And what are the benefits that you should highlight? The benefits that they've already identified as problems in their lives in that presentation. So the presentation is going to be set up again with questions, and questions that lead the prospect lead the prospect to answer in a way that it points back to your product or service or whatever. In the presentation, you need to establish certainty between you, the product or service you're selling, and the company you're representing.
Yes.
Right? You need to identify those things, because people, if they're not certain, it's always going to come down to maybe they don't like you, or maybe there's something off about you. There's something not real about you. Maybe it has to do with the product. They're not certain about the product or the quality or the lifespan of the product, or maybe it's just simply the company. They're just not certain about the company.
Yeah. And that's important for different providers, right? Like service providers, like roofers or painters or whatever.
Yeah.
Company is really important. It's like, hey, like if you screw up, are you going to disappear? That's like a huge thing for a lot of people, because that happens, right? How long have you been in business? What kind of reviews do you have? All these stuff about the company can be extremely important, because it just adds another layer of credibility and respect and trust.
And I will continue asking those questions, right? How do you differentiate yourself between you and everybody else? How do you differentiate yourself as a sales professional between everybody else? How does your product different? How is your product different from all the other products out there? And how is the company that you're representing different from all the different products, all the different companies out there? Let's look at Apple, right? We know that Apple, people can be certain that it's a good quality product. It's not going to break down. So a lot of people could have that idea about the company. They could have the idea about the phone itself. The iPhone, it's a great phone. They're certain about the company. They're certain about the product, which is the iPhone. But maybe they're not certain about you as the salesperson, right? And so if you miss those signs during a presentation, you can never go to the sale. And so the reason you miss those signs is because you didn't do enough ID period. You didn't find out enough information about the prospect on how they feel about the product or the company. You didn't build that likability, right? And so if you don't build that likability, you've broken trust. And so once you have identified with your prospect, once you have presented your idea, product, or service, now it comes time for the trial close. And again, the trial close is going to be 80% questions.
Yeah. And I love this one. This is actually something that I never titled as trial close. I kind of did it intuitively, but I love how, and I'm jumping in here because I really want people to listen to this, because I think a lot of people do not do this. So this trial close portion of the sales presentation is super, super powerful and basically guarantees that you're actually going to close. So listen up.
Well, I've always, because in a lot of the sales books that I've read, there's always like, bam, bam, close. but there's a step in between, and I've identified it between the presentation and the close, because by the time you get to the close, the answer should never be no.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If the answer is no, you haven't done your job. Sometimes you need to hang around in the trial close for a long time. Sometimes you'll have to go back to the ID period. But by the time you get to the close, the answer should never be no, next time, because you should already pick that up during the trial close. You see, the trial close is where you test the waters a little bit, right? The trial close is where you ask you're going to get all your objections. If there's any objections, they're going to come up during the trial close. So you need to ask proper questions. For example, have you seen enough today to make a decision? That's a very clear question, right? And now the prospect is going to tell you, well, no, I need more information. You have to let the prospect lead the process. Your job as a sales professional is to guide them through a process, is to guide them through this journey. I'll tell you, I'm the easiest guy to sell to if you quit the yapping, right? And you get right down to what's fun and like, what's the point? Like, what's going to be the point? What's going to be the benefit in my life? How much fun am I going to have? And let's do it. Here's my credit card. A lot of salespeople don't pick that up quickly enough, and they start talking and talking and talking and talking, and I'm done.
Overselling, right?
They're overselling, and I already would have bought it during the ID period, right? And so this is where salespeople do not understand personality types. And so, you want to give enough information and start to read the prospect. When they start checking out, you've broken some sort of trust, and you need to ask the question, have you seen enough to make a decision?
And something I want to add, actually, just to affirm, so that everybody listening, and even just for myself, during the trial close, you have not presented a cost yet, correct? Or a price?
No, during the presentation, you have presented the price. You have proposed of something. Everything, that's part of the presentation, right?
Interesting. So you actually, before you trial close, they already know the price?
Yes. So
interesting.
There's a lot of sales books where it says don't talk about the price. I like to give up enough information as soon as possible, right? And I like to, number one, I'm going to differentiate myself between why me and everybody else. I'll differentiate myself why my product or service is better than everyone else, and I'll establish value, right? And so I'm not gonna leave a presentation. I won't even go to a trial close without talking about price. And so one thing I left out during the ID period, I will anchor the price. Yes. And so anchoring is setting expectation or setting a perception of price where it doesn't have to be in particular about your product or service, but for example, if you're selling $100 product or a service for $100, I will talk about 500, 1,000, 500, 1,000. I will try to throw that
5 to 10x sort of thing, right?
Yeah. I will try to throw that in as loosely in the conversation. Of course, none of this should be robotic. And if you are taking notes right now, and this, by the way, this information, this conversation is worth millions.
Worth millions, billions.
I've made millions with this, with this, using these systems. But at the end of the day, you should be practicing this all day long. This should be your main focus. When you're with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, like, just go right into a sales sequence. And so, if the more you do this, the better you become. And so when you get out into the real world, it just flows. It's conversational. It's not rigid, right? And so I do separate it into like 4 different steps, but I don't want people to get caught up in the mechanics of it. I want people to actually use it loosely. And the only way to do that is to practice in front of the mirror, practice with your kids, practice with your nephew, practice with your grandmother, practice with your mother, practice. And just always find a way to get back into that sales sequence. You need to understand where you are. Are you in the ID period? Are you going to be in the presentation? Are you in the trial close? and you ask during the trial close, if you ask questions like, is there any reason why we can't do business today? Have you seen enough information to do business today? And then this is when the objections come out. Never be afraid of the objection. The objection is one of the best things, because if someone has an objection, all they're telling you is, you just need to solve this, and I will buy.
Yeah.
Right?
You just need to help me see the other side of this.
Yeah. Like an objection is definitely a buying pattern. An objection is a buying pattern. But this is what people need to understand about objections. Sometimes the first objection is not the real objection.
I would like to change that and say almost always the first objection is not the real objection. Like 90 to 95%.
Yes. Because it's just like, nobody wants to admit that, maybe their wife is not around for them to make a decision, or they don't have money, or they're bankrupt, or whatever the reasons people have, and whatever people put in front of them in terms of an objection. And so the objection is very important, that nobody freaks out when there's an objection. People get scared at the first objection. I always want to isolate the objection and just put it to the side. And so I'm going to hot potato the objection. And so the objection is going to come in. They're going to say, well, I don't like the price, right? And so hot potato means I'm going to throw it back onto your lap. And I'll ask a simple question. You don't like the price? And so the prospect now... And
then keep silent, right? Keep silent.
Yes, exactly. And so the prospect now needs to justify that objection. And so they either will say, well, it's not really the price, or it's too high, for example. But still, that might not even be the real objection. So I'll say, okay, if I can fix that for you, is there any other reason why we can't do business today? Right? And of course, I'm being very direct and being very clear with my language, but you're not going to use that. You're not going to use it like a sales tactic. Everything needs to be conversational. Yes. And so people will say, well, no, to be quite honest with you, my wife is not here. Right? And that's when the real objection will come out. Right? And so you might go back to, because you've isolated, you've put an objection to the side, and you said, okay, so really it's not, let me just be clear. It's not the price. It's the fact that your wife is not here. And so that means that you didn't do enough information gathering during the ID, where you should have asked, like, are you the decision maker? Do you make these kind of decisions?
Is there anybody else you need to help make the decision or something?
Exactly, because there's no point of going through a whole presentation if the ultimate decision maker is not present, right? And so, because you're gonna have to do it twice. So the best thing to do at that point is just set another appointment where the ultimate decision maker is there.
I want to actually hit that home too. That's a super big one, because a lot of people, they prioritize the meeting over the meeting with the right people. And I've actually, this is something I coach about a lot. I've literally told my clients, like, if you don't have both decision makers or all decision makers on the call, reschedule the call. Do not do the call, because if you don't have the opportunity to close on the call, what's the point of the call?
Yeah. And
it's a waste of your time.
If you get a gatekeeper, right? If you get a gatekeeper, your job is to close that gatekeeper. You got to bring him through a sales cycle, not on the product or service, but on the fact that you need to meet the prospect, or you need to sit down with the prospect to get the appointment.
Yeah, the real decision.
The appointment becomes a sale, right? You need to close the appointment, and you go through the sales cycle. So are you the ultimate decision maker on getting this appointment? They're in charge of the
calendar or whatever.
Yeah, the calendar or whatever. So everything is a sales cycle, but sometimes people get caught up into the product or service without really, starting to read people and starting to identify, having that skill of qualifying people. And so once you've identified the objection, you might pull out more objections. So if I can present to your wife, and if she loves this product the same way that I know you do, is there any reason why we couldn't do the deal? And they might say, well, I don't like the timeline, right? And so, okay, other than the timeline, Is there anything else? So I'm going to isolate them. I'm going to almost create a moat around the objection to make sure that we can put those aside. So I don't want to get to the objection with the wife. I don't want to get to the meeting with the wife and then I have all these other objections to deal with. So I know his thing is time. I know and the wife needs to be there. And I will also ask, is there anything I should know about your wife before we meet? Right? Because it could be, you gotta bear with me. She's someone that does not like a lot of information, and she's all about the meeting people and she enjoys lots of hugs and people whatever
specific though too, right? It's like, hey, what's most important to her? You could just like go right forward. Like if she was to look at this, and this is one of my favorite personally, because this is always a fun thing, especially if it's husband-wife situation, even business partners. It's like they've been together for
or husband years. And husband or
husband,
wife and wife. We're not saying that,
Yeah, and what's important though is like they know each other super well. Right? Like they know exactly what kind of face expressions and this and that and so on. So you can like indirectly close the wife and say, hey, like if your wife were here, what would she ask? What would she care about? What would she say? And you can take all this information down. And I've actually, for the record, I've actually even been able to close the husband by literally like saying, like talking to the wife through him. Not saying that that's easy to do, but you can.
Well,
but what's important,
the product value of the purchase price.
For sure. And then of course, taking note of all these things so that when you do have that second meeting with the wife, it's like, you're ready to go. You're like, hey, like when I spoke with your husband, he mentioned this, and I'd really love to address that with you. Is this something that's true for you? And then like, boom, hit it on.
So whenever I would see the wife, I would meet them again. I would go through the sales cycle again.
Yes.
Right. I would start off with the ID period. I would go into a presentation based on the ID period. And I'm only going to talk about the things that are important to the prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Your product might have 1,000 benefits. I'm telling you, your prospects don't need to know about all the different benefits of your product. They only want to know what's important to them. Right. And so, you can, like sales calls or whatever, or someone like you, Oliver, you would ask a simple question like, listen, what's most important to your company? Is it the follow-up? Is it the sales? Like, what are you having trouble with? Is it the lead generation? And so they will tell you, listen, we do pretty good on sales, but we stink at the follow-up. Mm-hmm. And so the presentation should be geared toward how amazing your product or service can help them with their follow-up.
Yes.
But if you're talking sales, well, they don't have a problem with sales. The problem is the follow-up. And so this is how you would tailor the presentation based on who's in front of you. It needs to be what's important for them. So by the time you get to the trial close, you will minimize the amount of objections. If you have 25,000 objections, you did not do a good job.
Yeah, you messed up.
You probably rushed the presentation. You probably talked about benefits that have nothing to do with the prospect. And so now you're going to pay for it during the trial close. Mm-hmm. It's normal to have some objections, and then you can isolate all the objections, and you just have to be a professional problem solver and come to terms where, okay, you know what, let's bump up the time. Let's get your wife involved here. And so once you've established that, is there any other reason? If I can get your wife on board and I can bump up the time for you, is there any other reason why we couldn't do business? And then they would say, well, if you did that, then there's no other reason, which means they have committed to you. They have committed to you. Yeah. And so for them to go to the close and say no, it would not be logical, right? Because they've already committed to you. And so that commitment is important, because you will never step into a close without having the commitment or some sort of agreement during the trial close. And if you don't get that, then you got to go back to ID.
Mm-hmm.
So the door is always open. And so for me, the close is very simple. You have simple closing questions, and depending on the value of the product. If it's a product that is under $1,000, it's a lot easier to use these closing questions, closing tactics, like the assumptive close, like, okay, let me just write up the order. Or is it blue or black? Or is it cash or charge or check? If it's a higher price product,
Mm-hmm.
I would use, different questions like,
How would you like to move forward?
Yeah, how would you like to move forward? Or when would you like your staff to start using this software? How fast would you like for us to install this software? Or things like that, right? But other than that, at the close, it's simply guiding them. So you should never be too passive and assume that they're just going to close themselves. I know a lot of people, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, I had a question from a good friend of mine. He's like, well, they don't do a certain thing. So we close them, but they're supposed to do other actions on their side where they never do. And I said, well, how does it work? Well, we send them I guess something to fill out, and they never do it. Mm-hmm. And so I told them, well, there's your problem right there. You're too passive, right? I know you've gone through the trial close and they've identified as someone that is going to buy, but you can't be too passive. You can't just assume that they're going to do it. People just don't do things on their own. You need to guide them. Number two, don't be too aggressive, pushy, but you should be assertive. You should have certainty in what you're doing. And let's just guide you along. Let's get you using our product as fast as possible.
Assertive, pleasantly persistent, assertive, yes. Yeah.
And so the close will be natural. And so if you get to the close and someone says no, you've done it all wrong, right? So that means you got to start over from the ID period, not from the trial. The worst thing people do is when they get to the close and someone says no, they start selling again. They start talking about the benefits. And no, you go back to ID period and start all over again. Do a little presentation, go back. There's something that you missed and you've broken trust. This is why they're saying no at the end.
Totally. Beautiful. Well,
but other than that, Oliver, if you master that, you become the master of the universe. Right?
Boom.
You can
drop the big mic.
Yeah. You can go into the dealership and get the best deal. You can go and buy the best piece of real estate. You can use all of these. You can use this system to just go out there and master the universe. You have to go through when you're dating, when you're courting someone that you want to spend the rest of your life with. You're going through this process. You're going through a long ID period. You're going to go through a presentation and a trial close and a close until you actually put a ring on it.
The best tip for that, man, the best way to close a girl is you propose on stage. She can't say no. Everyone's watching. She has to say yes. Yeah. I did it. It worked.
She might be really impressed on, what, he must have, willing to put himself up out there and take a chance, right?
Yep.
That's great. And you did propose and she said yes, and so congratulations as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Totally. Cool. Well, that pretty much takes us to the end of the episode, I'd say. So Alfonso, if someone wants to find you or wants to know more about, the Cuadra Group of Companies or really anything else you're moving forward, I know there's lots of things like Cuadra Youth and things like that. Where can they go? How can they find you?
Best place is alfonsocuadra.com, ALFONSOCUADRA.com.
I'll put that in the show notes and all that. Yep.
Yeah, you can find me on Insta.
Right?
And Alfonso at Alfonso Cuadra. And I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn. If you just go on Google and you type in my name, the first 66 pages will be me. So,
awesome. All right. Well, to recap the episode on this episode, the Ultimate Closer Show, we had the epic privilege to dig into some sales theories and philosophies, as well as actionable strategies, tips, and methods to make sure that you're closing more deals here with Alfonso Cuadra. And more specifically, we talked about things like how to deal with letting people down. Right? This is super important for a lot of us, knowing when you're in your genius. So actually knowing when that is that you're performing in your genius. Master goal setting to stretch yourself. Right. So this is really important. Don't make it too easy. Don't make it too hard. Don't make it overwhelming. Don't make it super achievable. Understanding your business cycle and your sales cycle, how they work, what they look like, the process and the steps. And of course, an important one is that if you're not selling, you are dying, right?
You're dead.
You're dead. You're already dead. And then we went into 3 reasons why people will buy from you, right? So likability, respect, logic and reason. What's the deal? And then finally, the 4 steps of your sales sequence, which are going to look like identification, presentation, trial, close, and close. Get that yes. And then, of course, talking about objection handling, and more importantly, being a professional problem solver. That's really what this episode's been about. And so by the time that this episode is released, it'll be the beginning of the second quarter of 2019. We talked about the quarter a little bit, and I've got one question for you. If you do exactly what you did in the first quarter, would you achieve your sales goal for the year? If you would, then I'll bet it's because you learned from videos like this one and you're putting them into action. But if you wouldn't, then it's time to take drastic action. And I invite you to take action on connecting with people like myself or Alfonso right here, who can help you make sure that you hit your goals. So once again, Alfonso, thank you so much for being on the show. And until next time, my friends, I wish you all the abundance that you desire.